In the last section, we saw that every believer is a priest, called to bring their portion to the body. But if that's the biblical blueprint, how did we end up with a model where one man does almost everything while the rest sits silent? Well, that's the story of drift. You see, the church began as organic. Meals around tables, believers in homes, everyone participating, but little by little, it shifted. By the late 1st and early 2nd centuries, gatherings were growing, and instead of dozens in a home, sometimes you had hundreds in a hall. So to manage that, certain leaders, called bishops or overseers, began to take on more visible roles. Now, on one hand, some of that was practical, but what started as oversight for stability soon became hierarchy. By the 3rd century, bishops weren't just guiding, they were ruling. And the gap between clergy and ordinary believers began to widen. This is where the language started to shift. Instead of seeing all believers as priests, priestly language was reapplied only to clergy. Ordinary Christians were told, in effect, sit back, we'll minister on your behalf. That's the very opposite of 1 Peter 2, where Peter says, you are royal priesthood. Then came the big turning point in the 4th century, Constantine. When Christianity was legalized, everything changed. Suddenly, instead of meeting in homes, the church was given public buildings. Wealth flowed in, leaders were funded by the state, and the gatherings took on more formality, more ceremony, more distance. Think about it. For 3 centuries, the church was centered around the family table. Bread, wine, prayer, teaching, fellowship. But after Constantine, the family table was replaced with a stage. Clergy wore robes, choirs sang up front, liturgy was read, and the people mostly listened. That was the birth of the spectator model. Fast forward to the 19th and 20th centuries. With the rise of seminaries, the pastor role became professionalized. Sunday services were standardized into a formula: 3 songs, announcements, sermon, and then the benediction. The pastor became the CEO, the worship team, the performers, and the congregation, the audience. Excellence was measured in polish, not participation. Now, let me be clear here. I'm not saying God hasn't used pastors or buildings or even institutions. Of course he has, but we have to be a little honest here. The model that we've inherited is a far cry from Acts chapter 2 or 1 Corinthians 14. It's not that we've abandoned Christ, it's that we've drifted from his design for his body. And here's the picture that helps me see it. A family table versus a stage show. Around the family table, everyone eats, everyone talks, everyone shares. On the stage, one person performs while everyone else watches. Once the family table was pushed aside, the stage was built. And listen, I grew up thinking the stage was the only way. I thought excellence meant microphones and programs and a polished sermon. But once I tasted the table again, once I experienced the body alive, each member bringing their portion, I realized how much had been lost. The tragedy is that most believers have never even seen that kind of gathering. They think it sounds like chaos, when in reality it's order the way God designed it. It's his manifold wisdom on display through the whole body. So the question becomes, if the church drifted from organic family life into institutional hierarchy, what do we do with the objections? People will say, well, what about Timothy? What about elders? Doesn't Scripture command order? That's what we need to dig into next.